Welcome to the Confidence Through Health podcast. My name is Jerry Snyder. As a health, wellness, and sports performance coach, my goal each week is to bring you experts to help you take control of your health and build your self-confidence. Thanks for including me today on your journey to better health. I want to say thank you to Social Media Cowboys for sponsoring this week's episode of the Confidence Through Health podcast. If you need help with a website, if you need social media needs for your business, if you need help with AdWords, SEO, all those things that you know you should be doing, but you are too busy to do or you're too confused about, they are the experts that you need in your corner. If you're interested in launching a podcast, such as mine, they help me edit my podcast and do a fantastic job making sure that all of the technical side of it is handled and we launch a nice, neat, edited podcast episode each week. So I want to thank Social Media Cowboys for their continued sponsorship of the Confidence Through Health podcast. You can find them at socialmediacowboys.com, or you can find them as well with other sponsors at confidencethroughhealth.com. So, Dr. Har Hari Khalsa, I want to thank you for being a guest on the Confidence Through Health podcast.
Thank you.
So, one of the things that really you've dove into in with your practice and really wanted to talk about and bring to light for people that maybe haven't heard about it, or maybe they have and they don't really know what it is the whole concept and thought process behind biohacking, right? And so before we dig into all the different areas of it, like what is biohacking?
Well, it's basically, manipulating your immediate environment to your health advantage. So that means, as simple as getting in the sun, as simple as taking your shoes off and walking in nature, as simple as going to the beach or to a park. It's just another term for doing things with your environment that you control, right? You're in control. And it's like 90% of the things you can do with biohacking is literally costs nothing. Yeah. In fact, the most powerful thing in the biohacking space is fasting.
Yeah.
And not only does it not cost something, you save money.
Right. Yep. Well, and that's one of the things that I think a lot of people, they hear phrases, they hear words, and they're not something that they're used to. And they hear biohacking and they think all this different technology and all these things, and that stuff's out there. But like you said, it's simple stuff of just taking like the basics around your life, and whether it's eliminating something or adding something that's beneficial.
It's being strategic with your time. It's literally about leveraging your time and your knowledge. And like what we're doing on this podcast is giving people the knowledge,
right? And
then they can leverage their time and use that to the advantage, because time is everything. What you in the waking moments of your life, if you know how to strategically position yourself with the right elements of nature, you're going to have dramatic impacts on your health.
Right. Well, and one of the things that, I always tell people when they ask me, like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Like, why do you take these steps to make sure that your life is healthier? And I'm like, because I want time at the end of my life, right? Nobody's on their deathbed. I mean, we've seen all the different, research projects and all the different things that come out to say that nobody's on their deathbed saying, I wish I had more money, or I wish I had more. It's that I wish I had more time.
Yeah, and more quality of life too.
Yeah.
It's all about life, health span, not lifespan. It's like you should, every moment of your life should be spent in health, in good health. I mean, health is wealth. I mean, wealth is nothing like physical money, or it means zero. And that doesn't, and that's including like, how do I say that? It's like, to have the main purpose of your life being to acquire things and money, you're literally bypassing what you should be doing, which is focusing on your own health on a day-to-day basis. If you bypass your health, you bypass your life. Yeah. Literally.
Yeah.
So
well, and as you know, from all the things that you're doing, I know you'll agree with this statement. It's like your body is the most important vessel and piece of property in your life. And so you may have a desire to go get the car that you want, or to get a house in the neighborhood that you want, or those things. And there's nothing wrong with that
Yeah.
if you're taking care of your body first.
Yeah. I mean, I intentionally live a very simple life just so that I can do this biohacking. Because to me, it's everything. It's like from
Yeah.
the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed, I'm like, I'm either looking at new things that could potentially help me or working with the things I already know that help me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. And that's it. It is simple. Like, and it's simple, but it's when you get into it, and people ask me how difficult it is to live the way that I live, because I do similar things. Is like, okay, well, I'm intentionally avoiding things that I know are going to cause problems to my health.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, how can you do that? How do you, like, that's got to be discipline. It's got to be difficult. It's got to be, and I'm like, it's actually pretty easy once you start doing it. You realize how easy it actually
It's
is.
really about, you have to swap like quote unquote one addiction for another because
Hmm.
pretty much we get addicted to our lifestyles,
Yeah. Yeah.
having pizza, going out to the movies, drinking Coke, smoking
Yeah.
cigarettes, all that stuff. Those are addictions, and
Yeah.
then it goes from there. And then you start getting into drugs and and other levels of addiction.
Right.
And by the way, I have nothing against any of those things, and I think it's fine to do those things in moderation, right?
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be a fanatic with anything. It's just, but what I've found in my life is that I get far more satisfaction when I do something that's really helping me. Like if I go in an ice bath, I feel high for the rest of the day.
Right.
And by the way, that high is higher than any drug you could ever take.
Right.
They've shown that the dopamine levels that get produced in your brain from an ice bath are 3 times higher than cocaine.
Yeah.
Hello?
Right.
Why do you think I do biohacking?
Right.
It's a healthy drug.
Yeah, exactly. It is. And there's so many things, right? There's like, so if if you don't like a certain thing, or if you're in an area where, okay, well, I don't get a lot of sunlight because of the area I live in, like there's other things you can do
Yeah,
to get,
totally.
that same
Well, that's where
effect,
the
right?
biohacking, the machines come in, the
Right.
red light beds, the UV lamps for
Yeah.
vitamin D. If you live in the northern latitudes, you need a UV light,
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
super important.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and I remember I did a video on YouTube about nutrition, and and somebody commented, like something to the effect of, nobody in our pet, like in the old days, nobody cared about the amount of carbs or the amount of fiber, the amount of this or that. Nobody was paying attention to that, and they all lived fine. And my response is, yeah, but those people weren't sedentary, sitting at a desk, sitting. They were outside. They were in touch with nature. They were in the,
Yeah.
you know, dealing with the dirt and getting grounded and sunlight and all those things. And the benefits that we've lost because we've come into our comfort,
Yeah.
indoors, air conditioning,
Yeah.
you know, it's,
Well, living in Texas, I think you need that air conditioning
well, yeah.
in the
Yeah.
summer.
Well, it's not even summer. It's supposed to be 100 degrees today. So,
Wow.
yeah.
And
So
well, I was in the valley here in LA last week, and it was 106 in the valley
oh
here.
my gosh.
It was like, what the heck? It's not
Yeah.
even summer yet.
Right. But even with that, like there's windows of time where you can get out, get your
Yeah.
exposure. There's and like you said, that's where technology can come in. Like, okay, well, I can't get outside because it's just too hot, it's too unhealthy. But I can go get red light therapy somewhere, or those other technologies that are beneficial in allowing us to get similar
Well, in
benefit,
a
right?
hot environment like that, my go-to thing, ice bath.
Yeah.
Ice bath. You know how good it feels? Like my favorite thing in the world is get in an ice bath on a 100-degree day
Yep.
and then lay out on the cement with your body frozen.
Yeah.
That feeling, the contrast between the extreme heat and extreme cold, that's the ultimate bliss. It's
Right.
like really
Yeah.
amazing.
And it's what's happening inside our body is that we're shocking the cells, and in like in a layman's terms, like we're giving them
Healthy
a like,
stress.
okay, we're stressing them out. We're saying like, okay, you've got to protect yourself because the environment is changing drastically in a short amount of time. Like learn how to protect yourself so that you can be stronger
Yeah,
as
you're
our life goes
basically
on.
working on your mitochondria.
Yeah,
I'm all about mitochondria. So
yeah,
sun, cold, grounding, magnetic energy, oxygen.
yeah,
That's everything. That's
yeah,
literally, if you want to define biohacking, I just did. That's
yeah,
it, right there.
yeah.
That's
Well, and
it.
that's one of the things that, mitochondrial distress is one of those things that's just like that I don't think enough people pay attention to.
Yeah.
And
Well,
partially
most
because,
people
okay,
don't even know what that means.
well, yeah.
You know what? I talk to my patients all the time and I say, listen, do you know what mitochondria is? 90%, 95% of people don't even know what that is. They don't
Oh,
even know
wow.
what it is. Yeah.
Wow.
It's not, we think, oh, yeah, mitochondria. Well, yeah, we're in this space, but
Yeah.
literally, and even people that are very health conscious and eat good food and looking to do a good lifestyle, they don't even know what mitochondria are.
Right. Right. And so, but people that have been in science class, like they may immediately say, okay, it's the powerhouse of the cell, right? Because
Yeah.
that's like sort of what we remember. But like you said, nobody remembers after that what it does and how important
Yeah.
they are and where the concentrations are,
Yeah.
right? Because like different
Yeah.
different parts of our body have higher concentrations of
Yeah.
mitochondria,
Yeah. Yeah.
which shows how important that part of our body is.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, to me, like how I built this clinic, and I wasn't really like, when we built the clinic, there wasn't like a clear strategy. It was just
Mhm.
like, okay, we're looking at this therapy right now. This is very powerful. Now we're looking at this one and this one. And basically what ended up happening is we ended up tapping into all the main ones that you need to build mitochondria, which
Oh,
is red
nice.
light, hyperbaric oxygen,
Mhm.
and pulse PMF. Like those three therapies right there,
Yeah.
we have performed miracle healings on people it's incomprehensible the amount of healing you can achieve when you work properly in a powerful way with mitochondria.
Yeah.
It's incomprehensible. People don't understand. Even just with the red light, if you have the right red light device, like what
Mhm.
we have, the trifecta, they're regenerating the heart.
Oh,
Literally, we're
wow.
talking about hearts that are failing, that are literally like this close to needing a heart transplant, and
Mhm.
their heart grows back, and
Oh,
it's a
wow.
healthy heart.
Wow.
I
That's pretty
mean,
cool.
this is happening now. This isn't like in the future. We're seeing that now.
Yeah. And is that because I know the stem cells have to be a part of that process from the
Yeah.
regenerative part, right? And so is it the
Well,
mitochondria and the stem cells
yeah,
working together to,
exactly. But when you're stimulating the mitochondria at that level, with the trifecta bed, we're using a bed that has 15,000 watts of power. So it has a deep penetrating near infrared and red, but you need both of those
Mhm.
spectrums. But that's enough where it's powerfully activating your mitochondria to regenerate, to actually
Yeah.
regenerate the tissue.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing. And it just goes to show what the body's able to do if given the right tools and
Yeah.
information and stimuli to
Yeah.
say, okay, this is what I need, this is what I want you to do. And
Yeah.
and I spend a lot of time outdoors, so I spend a lot of time in the sun. And people ask me if I'm worried about this or worried about that because of sun exposure, and I'm like, no, because it's benefiting me on the other side of things. Like
Yeah.
I'm getting so much benefit in the things that I'm able to do on a physical level at 50 years old, and they're just like they can't believe it. And I'm like, well, it's because I know what I'm taking care of, and I know that what if I take care of my mitochondria, my other parts, like that they'll pay me back,
Yeah.
right? And that's
It's
that's
like a bank account. You know what?
yeah,
It we're dealing with the currency of life. ATP
yep,
is the currency. It's like money in your cells.
yeah,
And when you feed those mitochondria with the right energy source, you're increasing your bank account, your energy
Right.
bank account.
Yeah. And so for somebody out there who's like, okay, I'm interested, I'm trying to figure this whole thing out, like what's like the most important or like starting place that like this is where you should start because you'll start to see results, you'll start to feel better with, you know, this
Well,
avenue as far as
you know
building.
what? The simplest thing, especially now that we're going into summer,
Mhm.
25 minutes, midday sun, full skin exposure.
Yeah.
You know, and if you can't handle 25, start with 5. Build your time. Build your, you know, they call it a sun callus, where you
Mhm.
can build the resistance or your capacity to absorb light.
Yeah.
But the research is very clear. If you do 25 minutes midday sun, you will increase all of your hormone levels by 25%.
Oh wow.
Testosterone, thyroid hormone, you know, all your hormones increase 25% from 25 minutes in the sun every day.
Wow. That's
That's so simple.
that's
Simple.
simple, but it's so like wow, 25%, that's huge. Especially in today's world where, and you
And
said
we,
testosterone for men, like that's dropping like a rock for most men.
yeah, there's no, you know, the whole thing. I've been watching this whole debacle. I call it a debacle with testosterone with men. It's so unnecessary. If you understand how to manipulate your physiology, you
Mhm.
definitely do not need to take, you know, a hormone that shuts down your natural production. If anything, you
Right.
should take LH, which, you know, will stimulate your own body's production.
Okay.
You know, but even with that, you don't need it because, you know, the other thing is the L. reuteri strain of yogurt or of probiotic. Are you familiar
Mhm.
with L. reuteri?
Yeah.
Well, L. reuteri significantly raises your testosterone.
Okay.
Do you know that? It like
No, I didn't know that.
significantly raises testosterone. Yeah.
Okay.
And oxytocin, which
Yep.
is your bonding hormone, right?
Yeah.
And pretty much the entire Western world lacks L-reuteri because as soon as you take an antibiotic, which almost
Hmm.
everyone does,
Right.
it wipes it out, never to return unless you repopulate with the right strain.
Yeah.
And it has to be in a yogurt form. It cannot be in a pill form. You have to actually ferment it yourself.
Right.
I can give you a link to the recipe. Dr. Berg and
Mhm.
Dr. Davies did a fantastic little podcast where they explained how to make this yogurt and also what all the benefits are.
Well, and that's and it's not just yogurt versus a pill to get the right bacteria, but there's so many things that we can get through nutrition that we're
Yeah.
like, okay, we'll just take a pill and get that, but it's like it's not the same. Doesn't react the
No,
same in the
yeah,
body.
yeah. 90, I would say 90 plus percent of your food should be your nutrition, but there are definitely things that are lacking. Like another very important thing that I don't care how good your diet is, you're definitely deficient in iodine.
Yeah.
So 90 plus percent of the population, and iodine is an essential nutrient needed by every cell in the body, not just your thyroid.
Hmm.
Your all of your glands and organs require it to function.
Yeah.
So if you're deficient, you're not function. You're barely alive just without one thing
Yeah.
not in place.
Right. And it's things like that that it's like we don't understand, and that's where the biohacking comes in, right? Because it's like, okay,
Yeah,
we're not trying to introduce all these different technologies and therapies and all these things. It's like it's just understand what you are doing and how to
yeah,
fix it. Because if you're deficient in, you could be deficient in one thing, but it can throw the whole system off.
yeah, yeah. Iodine's a perfect example.
Yeah. And so it's,
But I mean,
people,
those would be like those are some of the most, what we just talked about. Those are some of the most critical things, the mission critical for your body just to survive, you know. And
yeah,
then at that point, okay, now you're thriving, your body's working. Okay, now what can you do to make it even better? And
right,
that's when you start getting into things like methylene blue and more exotic things like drinking your own urine and
right,
coffee enemas and all these other things
right.
that people
Yep.
do.
Yep. Um, and things like that, they sound crazy, but it's
Yeah.
like, okay, but some of these are ancient remedies
Yeah.
right? And ancient traditions that work and that are passed down,
Yeah.
and it's things that are non-pharmaceutical, right? That we
Totally. I'm
that
all
we
about the non-pharmaceutical, man.
yeah, because stuff that's made in the lab, your body and I've told people this is like, okay, well, the chemical formula may look exactly the same, but your body knows it's different. And so like getting
And
something,
the beautiful thing about urine is, one of the things I just learned about it recently, is you can do enemas with your urine.
mhm,
And so I recently started doing that, because I've been onto this thing where I'm doing coffee enemas. I don't know if you
right?
know,
Yep.
but do you have much, have
I
you
haven't
done
done
one?
one, but I've heard about them. Yeah.
Well, most doctors will just poo-poo it offhand. They'll just say, "Oh, that's bullshit."
Yeah.
Well, there happens to be one little study that was conducted on a group of melanoma cancer patients,
hmm
right?
hmm
They had two groups, one that was doing the coffee enemas, one that wasn't doing the coffee enemas. The one that was doing the coffee enemas as a group, I mean, you can Google this and look it up on PubMed or whatever,
Right.
but the point is significant increase in life expectancy,
Oh, wow.
50 to 75% longer
Wow.
with the coffee enemas.
Wow.
So yeah, I wouldn't poo-poo coffee enemas
Yeah.
just that easily,
Yeah.
That was with, active cancer cases.
Right.
So I'm a huge advocate of coffee enemas.
Yeah. Well, and it's things like that that are, again, they're simple,
Yeah.
like compared to some of the other treatments that are out there. And for people to just go, oh, that sounds weird. That sounds, but like look at the effectiveness, right?
Well,
And if you're
just so you know, the coffee enemas were part of the medical codex of treatments that medical doctors would give their patients up until 1976.
Mhm.
They removed it. They removed it because it's a drug-free therapy.
right. Yep. And that's one of the scary things is if if somebody can't make money on it, it gets removed, even though it's effective. Or if you can't make enough money on it.
Well, that's why there's things like these podcasts where
Yep.
we're reintroducing into the population the knowledge base that got a lot. It was intentionally lost. They
Oh yeah.
intentionally got rid of it because the more people know how to take care of themselves, the less these guys make their paycheck.
Yep.
You know, and that's like the big thing right now with RFK and Dr. Oz and Dr. Baccaria. They're
Yep.
taking over, and they're very aware of this conversation we're having right
Oh
now.
yeah.
Those guys are. They know. They're very aware of all.
Yep. And I mean, I think that's one of the great things and one of the things that I want to do with my podcast is provide those things for people so that, it's being able to take control of your own health and be able to say like, no, I don't have to just go to the doctor and get a pill for this. I can like go ahead and say, okay, I can research, find out that there's things that I can do on my own. Maybe there's a new herb that I need to start adding to my diet, or like we talked about, maybe it's spending 20 minutes outside with my feet in the grass, to ground and get that, and I use this example all the time with people. I'm like, okay, well, you go to the beach, you take your sandals off, you put your feet in the sand, and automatically go, ah. Like, why do you think you do that? It's not just because you're not in the office.
Yeah.
Like, there's a chemical reaction that's going on in your body as soon as your
But
feet hit
people
that.
can you can also sleep grounded as well.
Yeah,
I've been sleeping grounded now for 2 decades.
yeah.
That's a big deal. In fact, I have a system now. It's called Escape Zone, and it's literally I'm inside of a Faraday cage. I'm
hmm
completely cut off from all EMF when I'm in my bed.
Right.
It's like 6 layers of copper and silver, totally surrounding me,
hmm
totally cutting out the EMF.
Yeah,
My sleep since I started doing that, significantly better sleep.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand how important sleep is. And I've talked about this with other experts on my podcast, but when you don't sleep well, like your body carries trash around with you that it's not supposed to anymore because it didn't get the opportunity to get rid of it.
No, no.
And that
Sleep should be a
that
number one
stockpiles.
priority. Other than all these other things we've been discussing on this
Mhm.
podcast, sleep is the number one way your body actually heals itself. Number
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
is while you're sleeping, that's when the repair is happening.
Right. And it should be very simple and easy for people to grasp that concept because,
No.
when you get sick and you've got a fever and you've got like all you want to do is go lay down in bed and sleep,
Yeah.
right? And that's not just because you don't feel well. That's because your instinct, your body's saying, no, I have to stop doing everything else and attack this thing that's going on and like repair and heal and get rid of it so that then we can recover and move on.
Yep.
And that's the same thing that should be happening when we sleep in a normal sleep cycle. And for so many of us, we forego that, whether it's, our lifestyle or the pressures of life or whatever it is. That I remember seeing a research document on it a couple of years ago that by the time the average American is 40, we're like in a 2.5 year sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're never catching up.
Well, the thing is, what I think one of the biggest things that for me personally, what I figured out at a very young age, and this podcast could actually be waking some people up in the sense of that I realized at a very young age that I needed to make my health a priority, no matter what it meant.
Yeah.
Like literally when I was 20 years old, I'm 65 now, so that's 45 years ago. It was like a wake up call. I mean, in a way, I was kind of lucky. I actually got in a few car accidents, and I was like a daredevil, and I think I broke my spine.
Oh, wow.
Uh, what do you call it? Cliff diving, and then I hit a tree skiing. I got hit
Mhm.
by an air freight delivery truck. And I had all these things happen to me at a young age, right?
Yeah.
And by the time I was 20, I was racked in pain.
Yeah.
And it actually was a really good thing because it forced me to look outside of the conventional
Mhm.
medical model. Because at
Right.
that point in my life, I only went to medical doctors. I had no clue about natural medicine at all,
Yeah.
zero. And I was going to University of Oregon, and I had a yoga instructor, and I was telling him, hey man, I got this chronic pain in my back. I don't know what to do. I went to these medical doctors, and they just want to give me drugs, and they sent me to physical therapy, and it like does nothing. Right? I'm in like chronic pain. He's like, why don't you go see a chiropractor? I'm
Yeah.
like, what's a chiropractor? I didn't even know
Yeah.
because literally when I grew up, my parents we just never went to chiropractors. So I went to the chiropractor, and literally from the first day I met that guy, I knew I was in the right place. That's all I can tell you. And my
Yeah.
ding, whatever, he fixed me, and I was like, I that was it. That was the sea change I needed to like focus on my health.
Yeah.
And I made that my priority ever since then,
Yeah.
literally. So, and different people in different ways will come upon a moment in their life where now this is the priority. Like you
Mhm.
said, you could have a million problems when you're healthy. If you're not, you only have one problem,
Right.
your health.
Yep. Yep. And then so like, you know, there's so many options, right? And so that's where it becomes if you are struggling with something and it's like, okay, this is not going away. Like it's not just okay, I slept wrong, so my muscles are tight, and the next day everything loosens up and you're like, oh, okay, I'm fine. But the thing that like, okay, it's been a week and this is still happening. This is like there's so many options. How do we know what's the right thing to do?
Well, my feeling on that is you need to find a competent counselor. It doesn't need to be a chiropractor. It needs to be somebody who is a competent, holistic practitioner who understands herbs, who understands biohacking, mitochondria. If you just go to that person and say, do you know about herbs? Do you know about mitochondria? Do you know about biohacking? If they say yes to all three, you found your person.
Right.
And they literally can just be your friend. It doesn't
Yeah.
need to even be a doctor.
Yeah.
It's just somebody who's more knowledgeable than you.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is that it's if they know about and are focused on those things,
Yeah.
they're gonna put you in the right direction,
Yeah.
right? And to go back to the mitochondria thing, and it's because I have a doctor that I go to, a family practice doctor, and um I usually go once or twice a year just for an annual checkup, just to make sure that nothing crazy comes up or seen or anything like that. And of course, he always says, "We'll do labs," and he's like, "Dude, you're like off the charts. You're the best in my practice. Like you're probably the healthiest person in town. Like you're just like your labs are amazing." And I'm like, "Okay, good. Then I'm doing the right thing still, right? There's nothing off the charts. There's nothing crazy that's like wacky or anything." Um, and and like, because my wife sometimes gets concerned because I am outdoors a lot.
Mhm.
And so just the other day, she was like, "Are you sure you're okay? Because you're outside in the sun and it's getting hotter, it's getting summertime." And my immediate response to her was, "Yeah, I'm fine. My pH is 8. I just got it done like 2 months ago. Like my pH is 8. I know I'm not going to be, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Like I'm alkaline. I cannot get sick in those ways because it cannot
Any major
exist."
stuff. You can't get any
Yeah.
major illness. Yeah.
Like, so it's like I'm fine. Like the little stuff I can overcome, a couple days, no big deal. And for people to understand that kind of concept, um, then they can lead you in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other piece of it, I think, which is huge, is the mindset that, when she asked me, I'm not like, "Oh my gosh, maybe I am. Maybe I'm worried. Maybe I'm like," and going down that tunnel is like the mindset of like, "No, I'm fine. I'm healthy. My cells understand that and hear that and go, yep, we got you taken care of."
No, we're made to be outside for animals.
Right.
But
Yep.
there's a balance. You don't want to overdo it. Like I have a patient, and he's also a kind of a friend of mine who was a lifeguard in Malibu for 30 years.
Oh,
He
wow.
retired a few years ago. But he was in the sun 12 hours a day for 30
Yeah.
years.
That's a little different. Yeah.
That's a lot. I
That's
mean,
a lot.
that's an occupational danger, right?
Yeah.
He ended up getting, a lot of what do you call it? Skin little basal cell
Hmm.
carcinoma type things. He had to continue, and he was a very light skinned guy too. So it
Yeah.
wasn't, so he was a little bit more vulnerable than most people, but
Yeah.
there, that, but at the same time, he was, in the ocean. Unfortunately, the ocean in California, there's a bit of toxicity in the
Hmm.
water. And so
Hmm.
it is kind of, if you're in it a lot, it can actually be pretty harmful to your health.
Yeah.
Especially, yeah, they're seeing like people that spend a lot of time in the water, they
Hmm.
get weird health things,
Yeah.
and we're talking about biohack, but I want to end on one note because all these things are great,
Hmm.
but one thing we've really left out of the equation is detox
Yeah.
and the level of toxicity that it exists in every living human on this planet, in addition to every mammal, animal, plant, doesn't matter.
Right.
Anything alive on this planet has accumulated tens of thousands of industrial compounds that
Yep.
bioaccumulate in our bodies.
Yeah.
And you could be doing everything right in biohacking, and you're still a walking cesspool of
Right.
toxic material. That's
Yep.
just the way it is.
Yeah.
So the thing I do it, and that's a huge issue, huge.
Mhm.
And most of us don't have a clue about how to address that.
Right.
But what I found out, and this is just maybe in the last year and a half, I got introduced to a product called Cell Defender, which I'll send you the info on. But basically, it's a zeolite, and it's a very specific one. Just because you heard the word zeolite doesn't mean that all zeolites do what I'm going to tell you.
Right.
But and the reason is because it has to be bioactivated. Zeolites are substances that are naturally occurring in nature in volcanoes.
Yeah.
But basically they're a caged molecule. They look like a little honeycomb, and they have a very strong negative charge within them. So when you take it in the right format, it goes in the body and it literally attaches all the positively charged
Hmm.
heavy metals, volatile organic compounds, forever chemicals, and nanoplastics. Those are the
Wow.
for a big category. It
Mhm.
literally attaches and takes all of those things out of your body.
Oh, wow.
So that's a huge, that's a current, let's just talk about current day
Yeah.
issue that we all have. I don't care,
Mhm.
good health, bad health, biohacker, non-biohacker.
Yep.
We're all dealing with that.
Yeah.
Every single human.
Yeah.
So that's a thing. I would kind of classify it as a biohack, but just even the people within biohacking don't know about this. I
Yeah.
I found out about it myself a year and a half ago. I'm a huge advocate just because I've seen the results of people who take that product on miracle healing, almost
Yeah.
on every level, just by taking out toxicity.
Right. Well, and that's one of the things that detoxing is so important, and it's part of that snowball effect of our poor health in our country is, you have overweight, obese issues, and so your lymphatic system's probably clogged up or not working properly. So your body's not getting rid of stuff
Yep.
naturally like it should. And so if you don't add in a detox of some sort, like then yeah, you're
We're
you're
all basically we're
you're in
all
a
ticking
traffic
time
jam.
bombs. We're ticking
Yeah.
time bombs. And even people who are quote unquote healthy,
Yeah.
we're all ticking time bombs.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep. Yep.
we laugh about it, but it's kind of scary. It's a little
Yeah.
scary.
Well, in the microplastic thing, like it's amazing that the stuff that's coming out. I just saw something. I think it was Dr. Hyman that put it out a couple of days ago about another food that's like, oh wait, we're finding microplastics in this food, and it's a healthy food. So it's like even though you think you're still, because like you said, I think we've been around the industrial age for long enough that it's like it's in everything.
You know,
And so if we're
certain foods
not
have less
starting,
of it. Like, I think red meat is the least nanoplastics
Mhm.
versus a fish,
Right?
which is, high amounts of mercury and
Right.
nanoplastics. Are like,
Yep.
oh, great. I stay away from fish. I just don't eat fish
Yeah.
anymore because of that.
Yeah.
So,
And so it is. It's something that it's very. It not only now do we have to pay attention to where our food comes from, but even if we are trying to be as organic and as clean as possible with our food, we still need a detox. It's not. There's no
yeah, there's
guarantee
no there's
there.
no human that is exempt. There's
Yeah.
not one human that's
Yeah.
exempt.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think is, and it goes back to a little bit of the fasting piece
Yeah.
and that we talked about. It's like, okay, when we fast, we're allowing our body to naturally detox. And
That's the most powerful way to do it, by the way.
yeah.
We recently, my wife and me, about 6 years ago, we got introduced to dry fasting. I don't
Hmm.
know, are you
Yep.
familiar with the dry fasting?
Yeah.
We got this book called Phoenix Protocol, August Dunning.
Yeah.
And so my wife and me have been doing it for 5 years. Literally every year, for Christmas and New Year's, we do 5 to 7 days
Right.
to start the new year.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's like the best thing I've ever done. And it's not that hard. Like the first time was a little tricky because it's
Sure.
intense, but it's not hard.
Yeah.
You hear it. To me, because we've done water fast, juice fast, fruit fast,
Hmm.
all these different forms of fasting. Dry fasting actually is the easiest because you
Really?
literally don't have to worry about food, water, anything, nothing.
Yeah.
I don't recommend you do it while you're working. You definitely have to take time off.
Right.
There is a way, August Dunning has it where he starts like on a Wednesday, and you could actually, because you still have glycogen for like 3 days when you dry fast.
Right.
So by the time you get to Saturday, you're down. Like you're not going to work. So
Yeah.
Saturday, Sunday, you're out, and then you break your fast on a Monday. You just did 5 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things that I think some people are scared about it, whether it's dry fasting or water fasting or juice fasting, and and I've had people that have challenged me on it, and I'm like, I I I got sold on it when I had a client who came to me because she said her doctor told her she was allergic to food, all food, period. Like she couldn't eat anything and she was postmenopausal in her late 50s, if I remember. And we did a Zoom call. So it was funny because she was like, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. And so we're talking and she's explaining different things, but she eats something and within 15 minutes, she looks like she's 9 months pregnant. Like her body just bloated, like, oof.
Wow.
And I was
Wow.
like, and so she was like, my doctors can't explain it. They think I'm allergic to food. And I was like, okay. She goes, what can we do? I was like, well, it's gonna be a little drastic, but let's get rid of everything. Like,
Stop
let's
eating.
just let your body completely reset and then reintroduce things in a slow,
Yeah.
right? It's not, you don't break a fast like that with, let's go to McDonald's
Yeah.
or,
Oh, not.
and and so she was like, oh my gosh, like, she did 5 days
Yeah.
and then she started eating again. We started with like just basic rice and like some basic things. And she was like, she got to where she went like, and this was every time she ate anything, this happened beforehand.
Mhm.
She got to where she was like 2 months in before she had one happen. And then we were able to identify like, okay, don't ever eat that again. Right. And
Yeah.
then she slowly was able to be like, okay, those are the things that my gut can't handle, that the bacteria don't like, that, and she was able to build it back up. But it was all because of fasting. We gave the body a chance to just completely reset. Um,
No,
and so
fasting
it's,
is amazing.
yeah,
Amazing. But the dry fasting, when you're doing the longer, like 5 to 7 day, that's where you get the deepest form of autophagy, which
yeah,
is what your body's trying to do when you sleep, but it never really finishes the process. So when you do an extended dry fast, you're getting a long period of time where your body's going into autophagy, which is breaking down all of the diseased and misfolded proteins and just, and it literally gets rid of all the pathogens too. People talk
right,
about parasites and, dry fasting gets rid of that stuff because the
right,
stuff can't survive with no water.
right.
Your cells can. Our cells actually produce water. When you're metabolizing fat, you're producing water.
Yeah,
And you can survive for a very long time. People say, oh, you only can live 3 days. That's bullshit. You
yeah,
can live.
yeah,
I know people that have lived up to 51 days on a
right.
dry fast.
Yeah,
Yeah. We
yeah,
have capacity to go far beyond what medical people
right.
done.
Yep. No, I agree. I agree. And that's the thing that's crazy when people challenge that with that old, whether it's a wives' tale or wherever they get it from. And it's like, no, no, no. If you're not seeing the research, if you're not seeing what's happening, if you're not, and I also break it down for people and I'm like, okay, well, if you're overweight or obese, like the whole process of becoming overweight or obese is your body storing things to be used in the future. So if you don't eat, now it's using that stuff in the future. Like it's what your body's been preparing
Yeah.
for you not to eat. So just don't eat, you know?
A lot of it is, for me to do that type of thing, you really need a partner or a coach or
Mhm.
somebody who can look you in the eyes
Yeah,
and just say, no, you're
right.
not doing it. You're not
Yeah,
putting anything in your mouth. That's why I like doing it with my wife because she's usually the one trying to break it. I'm like, no. And that's telling me no, right?
yeah,
Because like she's like, because I'm feeling the same thing. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta drink it. Ah, I'm freaking
yeah,
out. No.
yep, yep.
But if you get through that, the feeling you get, like the first time I did a 7 day dry fast, I literally felt like my body when I was 18 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I was, see, at that time I was like 59.
Yeah,
And I literally looked like I was 18. I was
yeah.
like, damn, this shit's good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, but like you said, it's you're removing all those toxins and getting things
Yeah.
out of your body, and then your body's going like, oh, hey, there's nothing in the way from me feeling good again.
Yeah.
Yep.
They say, according to August Dunning, every time you do 5 to 7 days, you're taking 10 years, you're turning the clock back 10
Right.
years. You're giving yourself another 10 years of life
Yeah.
from 5 days.
Right.
That's huge.
It's huge.
Talk about a biohack. That's
Yeah.
like major.
Yep. Yep. So, so I want to respect your time. So, how can people connect with you? They want to learn more about what you're doing in some of the biohacking stuff. Like, how can they connect or follow with along with what you're doing?
Well, we're on Instagram, THUHEAL. That's our name of our company is Transformational Healing Universe. And our
Great.
website is thuheal.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And they can just follow us there. I do over the phone consults if people are interested. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I will link those in the show notes, and I want to thank you so much for being a guest. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you. It was awesome. I love talking about this stuff.
Yep.
Thanks for checking out the Confidence Through Health podcast. Please subscribe, post a review, share this episode with those you love who need a little extra help with their health journey. Visit allinhealthandwellness.com to learn more about the coaching programs that I provide. All episodes are produced by the Social Media Cowboys, your source for all online marketing needs. Go to socialmediacowboys.com for more information.